Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome the fourth round of the ARL GT3 trophy. It's here. We're live. We have stayed in Germany, stayed in Europe as we hopped from the Hockenheim a couple of hours away to the Nurburgring, and we're using the Grand Schelm of this circuit. We are using the full GP and Nordschleife layout. There you can see the right into the left of turns 1 and 2 around one of the most difficult circuits in the world. We are looking at about 15 kilometers of racetrack here. I'm not alone, as myself and Reed will be joined with Ashley Denman alongside me in commentary, and Aidan Howard will be in the production booth. We're in for some fantastic racing. Ashley, welcome in.
Thanks, Adam. Yeah, it's a pleasure as always to be here. I mean, doesn't get much better than this in terms of venue, in my humble opinion. It is an absolute legend for a reason. Of course, nicknamed the Green Hell, rightly so. I reckon some of the drivers might figure out about that name very shortly as well.
They will. Some really, really tough corners around this circuit that really challenge the driver. Hats and back into Fluplax, Arenberg. There's so many different sections. Carousel as well. And here is your standard. Remy Crozat is on top. Hayden Miller just behind. A car change for him, which we'll get onto later on. Fabian Fellman, Tom Kuhn and Fabian Nguia on 284 points. What can he do? And look how many Germans are in this part. 4 of them with right near the top. Jan Vollmer's the lowest on 132. As we now look to hopefully have some really, really good battles in toward the program. It was a overall win last time for Alex Rogers. He will look to attack into this forest. with a great amount of confidence. Marcus Fox behind him, 284 points, running away with it. And look how many Germans are in this. Patrick Schmidt-Heiss on 190 points. He sits in P5, just ahead of Selden, ahead of Sequeira and Daniele Cialfi. And look at that mixture right toward the bottom from Daniel Badarek all the way down to, at Shell for the Virtuous Racing Union. Now we move on to our amateurs, where we find Davide Vitoriti, the Italian, in P1, and then we find P2 Daniel Gruber, the only German in the amateurs on 173 points. He could go and take the amateur championship lead if it all works out from Celentano, also staying in there. Angel Havdal, Kinsker Swantabel as well. Some really, really good racing and good drivers in that amateur class. We've seen so much action, but let's get to qualifying. And yeah, we've had a little bit of adjustment, but you're right now, you are seeing some of the beautiful scenes in surrounding Nuremberg.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, the circuit built around I think it's the mountain, I want to say. I'm not sure if it is classified as that, but of course it's all around the Eifel region here. And of course, you just saw there the medieval castle of Nurburgring there. So circuit ventures off into the forest, round the mountain itself, and then loops on back to, of course, the start finish. And now where the Grand Prix circuit layout is, of course, used to be a fair bit longer with the Sulschleife. I'm sure we'll butcher that name a couple of times this evening. But this is going to be a tricky one here, Adam, tonight, because it being such a long circuit, I've got it on my notes, 173 corners here. But I mean, you have to take that with a pinch of salt, because some of these places you look for information, that it depends what they deem as a corner. But whichever you take, there are so many around here. It's almost impossible to memorize this circuit.
Yeah, especially with kind of the car and track combination. It's not like you're in a Formula One car, but a lot of corners on the F1 calendar, would be on this calendar, would be considered pretty much flat out. But in this, you have to be wary at every single bump, every single apex, every single corner, every single curb. You're looking everywhere around the track. I think that's one of the beauty of the Nordschleife. You are looking at every single ounce of this racetrack, the lifts, the dips. You're looking at every single ounce of this circuit. It's so difficult to memorize, but if it's going to be one place to do it, it's here on iRacing. So many drivers have driven a lot of laps around here. Maybe some have not quite done this and had a look at this circuit and gone, oh no, I'm in a little bit of trouble. But overall, I think it's just going to be the adventure. The qualifying format is going to be slightly tweaked for tonight, because instead of the 32 minutes that we had on the clock, and then we'd have our amateurs followed by our pro-am, followed by our pros. Everyone is out there. However, it's a solo qualifying session, and you only get 3 laps. So with the amount that they are going to be driving, you realistically, you should be getting over 25 minutes. So we're going to be very close to that 32, but that's kind of the introduction. If you're not seeing a lot of cars out there at this moment on time with the onboard we're currently using of the Pro Championship leader, Remy Crozat, that's the reason why, because it's all just solo qualifying in the minute. And I just want to point it out before I hand it over to Ashley. There's a little bit of rain, I think, on the inside of the carousel.
Yes, there was. There's a few. Oh, sorry, go on. Finish it.
Yeah, I was going to say there is going to be a little bit of rain out there. That's something to keep a potential eye out for on what is already a super difficult circuit.
I was really just confirming it, Adam. Yeah, I had a chat with our producer just before we got in. He did say that there has been some rainfall on the circuit before the session started. So there's going to be a few puddles about. But I mean, looking at the track temp and everything, such as that air temperature as well, it is pretty much perfect conditions to be banging in some absolute blistering lap times. I've got a quick idea of what it was in the practice session before we got into qualifying. I think on their sort of initial first or second run of the circuit, they were already in sort of the 8-minute 16s. I think that's going to be weird to say throughout this session, because normally we're used to about a minute, but 2 at the max. But yeah, it is a bit wet out there, but I'm hoping it should have pretty much cleared off, and we should see some real blistering times out of these guys.
We will, so we'll have to keep an eye out for what these drivers are doing. You're seeing purples in there. The times aren't going to matter too much, unless you've done 100 qualifying sessions around here, you're not really going to be noticing differences. For us, myself and Ashley, it's kind of our Nordschleife debuts already. So I think there was a lot of excitement, a lot of nerves, and already you're seeing just before the right-hander in towards, before they go down the Dottinger, you're seeing those puddles, and again, they can be a big problem. So it's going to be something to just really keep an eye out for. And they blast their way up the straight. Here is Remy Crows at over 260 kilometers an hour, and that's an uphill section. They'll probably maybe even get to just touching 266 by the time he heads down the hill underneath the Bilstein Bridge.
Or make that 270, I reckon, if he's got everything available to him. Of course, he is probably going to be a bit heavier with fuel being the first run. He might touch that on the next run by when the fuel's burnt off a bit. But yeah, 266 there. We just saw it topping out, coming up to Tiergarten and the final few corners here to finish off his lap. So first runner, I think Crozat is going to be the first one to officially set the time as well. So let's see what it is going to be. And this will be the benchmark for all the other drivers behind. An 8:18. Bear in mind, he would have had a little bit of colder tyres at the start of the lap. Fellman, 3 tenths behind. That is incredibly close there for such a long circuit as well. Hayden Miller third. Look at that, 2.5 seconds back. That's the sort of gaps I would expect to see at this event, Adam, because it is such a long lap. One small mistake at a corner normally costs you a couple of tenths, but over 173-ish corners, that will add up to a few seconds.
Yeah, indeed. It's just something to really keep the beady eyes out for, because there's so much going into this qualifying session. I think there's going to be a lot of kind of pressure on these drivers to really be able to attack. It's been, used so many times, as I said right at the beginning of the broadcast. It's a circuit where some drivers may have done 100, even 1,000 laps of it, while some, may have not done any more than 5. So there are going to be some pretty close margins in terms of what we got at the moment. I think our amateurs are starting to just cross the line. Their pole sitter at the moment, Pedro Botello Moniz for the Race Forward X BCM team. He's done an 8-minute 29.5. Remy Crozat's still on top. As we see more drivers heading across the line, it's actually Patrick Schmidt, the A, the highest German, and B, the pole sitter of the Pro-Ams on top. He's P4 overall, 8:21.471. But yeah, as you say there, 3 tenths of a second. Then you got the massive jump to 2.4 second back. I think that just showed the kind of the commitment levels between some of our top drivers. The pros still not able to flex their muscles in these early stages, but they're just going to continue working away and try and whittle down the time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be an interesting session, this one. I cannot wait for the race itself. I'm just going to answer some of the questions in the chat out there. Midi95, they can change cars. He thought it was for the entire season that they would have to pick one. Normally, yes, you are absolutely spot on. But I think we can have this talking point now, Adam. You can probably notice a few of the big names out there. They may have seen a car change. I think Hayden Miller, currently second in the Pro category, no longer in his Aston. He's now in the Ferrari. And that's due to a balance of performance change by iRacing this last week and in line for the Nurburgring 24 this weekend. So they've been given one free car change for this season. So if that, well, it does answer your question, I'm pretty certain, and should clear it up everything going forward.
Indeed, they do. So that's going to be something just to keep an eye out for. And we do have the iRacing Nurburgring 24 hours coming up as well. So this gives all of the drivers an idea to practice for the qualifying session for the race. So yeah, get ready for that coming up very, very soon on iRace. Prepare for the Twitch streams and YouTube streams to absolutely blow up ahead of one of the biggest races on the iRacing special event calendar. There, you're now seeing Leon Mishka, the Season 9 champion in the ARL GT3 trophy. He's had a bit of a rocky kind of go at this championship, but as you know, he is not one to be backing down on his home turf here with his Mercedes managing to get himself right down in towards his next sequence of corners. and on towards what will be Metzgersfeld up till this point.
I mean, talking about getting ready for the 24, I am nowhere near ready for the 24. I think I've done maybe a couple of stints in the simulator myself to prepare for this event. So I've still got my work cut out of me, cut out ahead for me this week. But I think we're looking at Mishka in practice. I think his time was looking pretty decent. He seemed to jump fairly close to the top end of things. That first run, I would imagine he's probably clipped a curb somewhere or something along those lines. So yeah, it's quite easy to do around here, and he'll obviously have dialed it in a bit more now and get ready to go for this second run. Oh, splash of the water there just before you come up over the rise. That could catch a few drivers out, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, absolutely could. And that's kind of where the drivers are being a little bit wary in these parts. That's probably why you're maybe seeing, plus 10 seconds for some drivers, just because the confidence isn't, quite there. We join here with Simone Silvestri in the Pro-Ams. He's just slightly improving his time, but it's, not by a huge margin. So it's going to be these final runs that are going to be so critical. Heads his way and twists his way through the next sequence of corners. I'll be interested to see kind of what, in terms of manufacturers, are going to be the best. But, you're seeing 3 different manufacturers in that top 3, that being Ford, Mercedes and Ferrari. Then the next one is Porsche down there in P12. 6.3 seconds off the next time. I think what will be the kind of the main interest in this one is going to be the race pace. Our drivers going to be able to match with each other, or they're going to be a couple of nerves going into each lap.
I mean, definitely. Qualifying is one thing, but the racing around here is another, because it's such a narrow circuit as well. So there is, you could argue, a few limited overtaking possibilities, but if you are so much quicker than the guys around you, that you really want to get by as quick as you can, because you're going to be held up for the majority of the lap otherwise. In terms of to answer your question as well, Adam, in terms of sort of the cars, I would expect to do well round here. I would look at the Mercedes, the Ford, the BMW is on my list. Even though I think it might be a bit underrepresented here due to the fact that none of the pro drivers, I don't think, are driving that car. And the other one would have been the Aston Martin. So maybe keep an eye on Pierre Verne there, 16th currently. But I would expect that Aston to do well. 1, fuel. 2, it can handle the curbs a lot better.
Yeah, definitely. You've got to kind of think about every single aspect of this circuit. You've got to think about the bumps, the elevation, the front straights, the corners, so many different that was a big old moment there for Remy Crozat, just about keeping the car between the white lines here. You can see he's going through what would be the Stefan Belov S, which is such a difficult section before heading up the hill and onto a Schwalben-Schwanz and then into towards Klein's Carousel. Some really top end corners around this circuit. I'm going to probably just throw it out here. I may have said it already, but this is probably, if not the best circuit in the world.
I mean, if you ask, I would say 100 racing fans, what is the best circuit? I'd say at least 90% of them, or 90 of them, are going to say the Nurburgring. And then, of course, the smaller percentages are going to be your other sort of purists. I would imagine Silverstone gets thrown in that mix. Spa, of course. I'm going to throw a curveball, but it is my personal favourite circuit, and that is Bathurst in Australia. I think that has a special place in my heart. But yeah, Nurburgring, of course, it ranks way up there. It is such a special place. It's so much history that goes on with it through GT racing, Formula One, even back in the day. It starts all the way in the 1920s. I mean, to have over 100 years of history at a circuit, I don't think there's that many out there that can boast that kind of number.
It will be one of those really interesting moments to think about. But yeah, you can kind of go on about all of the different circuits around the world. You've got to give credit where credit is due to Bathurst. It's one of those that requires so much concentration. I think with it's so similar to the Nordschleifer, and you cannot rest around either of the circuits. Now times are starting to come in thick and fast here. Fabian Feldman, the German driver in his Mercedes, goes to the top here with the Dark Horse Motorsport team at an 8:16.4 is his time, with 1.2 seconds clear of Hayden Miller in his brand new Ferrari 296 GT3. Alex Rogers pipping himself up into third place. We now capture the pro car of Jensen Andreasen, one of the neighbouring countries, I believe, with Germany. He's located in Belgium. Goes up to 6th place, but he's a third highest Mercedes behind Fabian Feldman, the Swiss driver. My apologies on that one. Of course, Daniele Sialfi just ahead of him, and Jensen, and then he's there just ahead of Derek Heiberger, who is now changed from the Corvette to the Mercedes. So once again, Mercedes being the dominant force in the field of the ARL GT3 trophy, and Badek Tadovic in the Ford Mustang put his American muscle car right toward the top.
That's quite an impressive lap from Feldman there. That really is the benchmark, I would say, at this point. And of course, now we're getting into the territory of people doing their final runs. If they've made a mess of it, you can reset and still get around, but you're going to be on those cold tyres at the start of the lap. So you're not really going to gain any benefit from doing so. So if you have made a mess of it at this point, your qualifying is basically done and dusted. So hopefully everyone's kept it clean up to this point, and they will be starting their final laps now. Here comes Gabriel Schmidt to the line, currently 22nd. Looks like he had a decent front part of the circuit. He goes up to 17th. I think he lost a little bit in the later parts, but still a decent lap there from Schmidt, and does get right in amongst it.
Yeah, you do. You've really got to put that car in a place where you're really pushing the limits. It's such a risk versus reward circuit. If you put a lot of risk out on the table, you may find yourself on pole position if you can survive the circuit. But if you kind of want to just survive, you kind of end up with being one of those drivers that is 10 seconds off the pace. There is Dabia Leviscus, 21 seconds down. I'm not entirely sure what he's doing in the minute. I think he's just sitting in the pits. Now, speaking of sitting in the pits, we do have a couple cars that are just at the moment in the pits. Axel Filloy, who has a qualifying ban, and John Wiggo Larson. I wonder if they're just sitting in the back. I know that Filloy has a qualifying ban, but what about Wiggo Larson? Could he just be thinking there's going to be carnage, so why not just sit in the pits? Because I just need to avoid it and stay safe here.
On the one hand, you're right. On the other hand, I'm going to say you're wrong, Adam. Simply because, again, I'll come back to the fact that this circuit is so tight. They'll say, I would imagine the field are going to safely navigate the Grand Prix circuit, no problem. It's wide. It's obviously built for modern racing. But as soon as they get onto that Nordschleife, up through that first left-hander and sort of dart their way into the forest, that's when things are going to get complicated, because if there is an off, it's probably going to back up the field and cause a massive pile-up if it is someone towards the front, let's say. So, yeah, you can sit back, you can take your time, but if you can't weave your way through it because there is literally no space, you're kind of stuck. You're not really going to go anywhere. I mean, the only thing you can wait for is hopefully that they stop and either have to tow or you really just slowly but surely weave your way through. But it's probably not going to be the payoff at the end.
I think it's also kind of these drivers are using this to the practice session as well. So I completely get the angle that you're coming from. So it's just one of those where, they might want to just use it to survive, get the laps in, use as an extra practice session for the iRacing special event. So that would just be something to take into consideration. But I think there's going to be so many different drivers going at this with so many different angles. You've just got to keep an eye on as many that you possibly can. Which is going to be a very, very difficult task, but that's why we're here.
Absolutely. Do you know what? I'm going to give Hyperion Racing Craft there, and I think Heidberger as well, that they've stuck with the Corvette, the pair of them. I believe Heidberger has as well, if he is here this evening. If not, I would imagine he hasn't changed. To be fair, credit to them, because I don't think the Corvette is a popular pick. I don't think it is a necessarily popular GT3 car. But those two, I can see Heiberg, he's actually got in the Mercedes now. But I tell you, Camden Craft, then, fair play to him. It's not the popular car, but he's making it work for him. I'd imagine he's going to have a tough one here tonight. But looking at the next few races on the calendar, when we head over the pond into the US of A, that car is probably going to come alive and match those circuits a lot better. So latter half of this season, we could see, I reckon, a bit more from Camden Craft.
Indeed, and we could also see a bit more from Derek Heiberg. Remember how good he was in qualifying around Algarve. You know, really was able to put it on overall pole. Then had had an incident in race 1 all on his own. And then, unfortunately, just had to go from the back and, didn't get the best results. So he's still kind of trying to continue to work, and then didn't attend the Hockenheim race. I think he was signed up, just never got racing. So, yeah, the Hockenheim was one of those that was a no score for him. So it's been a pretty kind of rough season so far for for Derek Heiberger. I think also it's been quite in the wars there for Camden Craft in that Corvette, in that pro class. But they're two fantastic racing drivers, and I'm sure that they'll be able to maybe push on and just do something. But you can see that one of the Mercedes, in fact it's Daniele Sialfi in the ARL Esports car, just at what is essentially pit exit. You can see there they're all just in one kind of all in one kind of little pit box. But yeah, the pit box is going to be right at the pit exit. I don't know, we're going to be using kind of the Nurburgring pit lane for this race. So don't worry, don't be too worried about that. Just know we're going to be using the actual Nurburgring GP pit lane for this event.
I would love to see a race there where they use the Touristfahrten taxi rank, whatever you want to call it. halfway down the
just go in and do a loop before entering your box with 5 other cars. That would be really interesting. In fact, I was actually covering the Buckmore Pug 24 hours, and we had this discussion probably about 4 times during the entire 24 hours that if you go into the pits, you're going to be behind another cart. You are going to be absolutely stuck, because if you try and do a splash and dash, you will get fuel for 2 hours there. You'll be stuck behind. So that would be, nothing ideal. I'm sure hands will be thrown. I'm sure birdies will be thrown, if you know what I mean. Not quite the nice birdies, but we'll see how this timing goes. And it's a big time there for Remy Kroos at half a second, and now they get topped 6/10 by Leon Mishka Feldman. 4/10 of a second back. Where is that time being missed? I would love to know. But look how many green sectors there. Cunha tonight, Iglesias, Nuguia, Pugnoli, Celentano. Nuguia goes to P8 in his Ford Mustang. That's one of the Porsches of Pugnoli to 25th. At the moment, it's Mishka in the overall. It's Schmidt in P4 overall, but in the Pro-Am poll, looks like Blum goes to 23rd. But these are some pretty critical moments. And look at Jensen Andreasen. How far can he go, the Belgian driver? Let's see what he does over the timing beam. Will he be able to go anywhere close to pole? No, that's going to be even slower. He's lost a lot of time in that last sector. In fact, he just goes 8th place, so jumps a couple of places, puts himself on the 4th row. These are some really, really top times. But who's going to be the next driver? Look at that, Denis Baraktanovic with the purple sector at some point during this circuit.
He's got a lot of greens in there as well. This could be a pretty decent time here for Baraktarovic as he goes over the line now. Is it an improvement for him? That's the big question. Goes up by 1. But I tell you what, that is a lot closer to the pole time there. Only 1.3 seconds back. I think the next car I'm looking at on that timing tower would have been, I think, Patrick Schmidt there down with the greens. 1 purple in the middle, but I think that lap might be over already. Here comes Carl Winkler over the line. He goes to 12th, so a nice little improvement for him. And I'm just trying to work out now, Adam. I don't think we've got too many cars left on the circuit. and maybe not that many left on a lap either.
It doesn't look like there are going to be a lot of drivers there. That's a spin there for Daniel Badarek. And that's going to be, not sure. I think that's kind of the near the end of the section. So that's something to keep a note out for. I think Patrick Schmidt is still out there on a lap time here. But no, because I saw the purple sector and I started feeling a little bit giddy on that part. I started getting a little bit excited. So I've been given false hope, it seems like, in that one. That's going to be Pedro Moniz into the barrier on the exit there of the right-hander before the back straight on the GP layout. Oh dear, that's not ideal whatsoever. Still, we do have 4 minutes left to go of the session.
We do. I've got a feeling though qualifying might be pretty much done at this point. I don't think anybody really sort of left it a bit later to see what the times they needed to beat were. We may have a car or two out on circuit, but at this point it may just be them sort of going around getting a little bit of practice for that opening first sector, because it's definitely going to be tricky on the slightly colder tyres. So it's going to be something to watch out for when we get to the race itself. But a lot of the drivers, I think, have pretty much all come back to pit lane, so I think we may just have a bit of a waiting game. I think it was that Dimitrov just jumped up to 16th there potentially. If so, that was pretty decent improvement from him, but I think this could be it, Adam.
Yeah, that looks like it's qualifying done then, and that will see the results leave our screens. Our drivers will have a 3-minute warm-up, but yeah, with a lap that is 3 minutes long. A session that's 3 minutes long, a lap that's 8 minutes long. Yeah, there's not going to be much to learn from that, unless maybe one of your weaknesses is the GP layout. Then that's maybe something you can learn at this stage. So we'll try and get you the grid as soon as we possibly can, but there will be some, high drivers to keep an eye out for. A lot of highs from that session, a lot of lows from that session. But here we are at the full Nordschleife layout, almost 16 miles with the altitude of 2,000 feet around the circuit.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, looking at the qualifying times, just on the little timing tower I've got here, I mean, from pole position to the top three, they are really close, within a few tenths of each other. So could be a nice start to this race. Of course, the pro drivers there, no doubt, will waste no time to try and make up as many positions as possible, and sort of, being able to show off their skill in that as well. So it's definitely something to keep an eye out for early on. But, if you do want to make sure that you too are going as fast as our pro drivers here for the GT3 trophy, do head over and check out Apex Racing Academy. They have over 40 cars on iRacing. Of course, you want to get fast with. They have the Apex Racing Academy, who delivers setups, track guides, data packs from some of the best drivers on the platform. So head on over to apexracingac.com to get started and make some early improvements.
Indeed, some really great stuff. So the final minutes of qualifying, but yeah, I think we're in for a lot of chaos. This circuit is never nice to any driver. It can very easily bite you in the backside if you're not careful, and that's exactly what drivers are going to be looking for. They're going to be trying to keep themselves on that racetrack. But I think if you want to go out there, it's just about kind of really attacking this circuit as much as you possibly can. There's going to be a lot of I think strategic elements to this race here. In terms of laps, this one's going to be a little bit of a funny one. I'm expecting about 7 laps of racing, which is so bizarre. I don't know about you, Ashley, but hearing that a race is probably going to go about 7 laps, that to me is just doesn't feel right, especially kind of in a sense when we've got our races before. We've had sometimes 30, 40, 50 plus laps on the board.
I'll keep it brief, Adam. To me, it's not odd. I've driven the Nurburgring a few times. I've done the 24 here, I think 3 times now over the last 3 years. And if you want to know my best finishing spot, last year GT4s we ran. I cannot tell you the split, but we finished second. So I've got a bit of experience here. So I would like to think I could hold my own against these guys. But why don't we have a look at the results from qualifying?
Yeah, indeed. It's also going to be the grid as well. Leon Mishka with an 8:15.3 puts it on pole position. Fabian Feldman will be in second ahead of Remy Crozat in P3. What can the championship leader do from third? Patrick Schmidt is the highest Pro-Am in P4 with Denis Barektarovic in P5 and then Hayden Miller and Alex Rogers. What can Rogers do there from P7? He'll be alongside Jensen Andreasen with Fabian Nguia and Marcus Fox in P10. The Austrian from P10 looking in a really good place here, mixing up with the pros. Tom Kunath from Carl Winkler, and then it will be Daniele Sialfi. Derek Heiberger, a pole sitter from the race in Algarve. He will start 14th this race, so down there on the 7th row onto the grid. Moving on to the 8th row of the grid, we find Dominic Engel and Yaroslav Dimitriev, the German, alongside the Ukrainian. Ronald Grossman will be for Core Sim Racing 2. He'll be alongside the ACA Esports team driver of Ruben Iglesias from Andorra. Before we then see would be Sam Clark, Ruben Iglesias, Pierre Verne in the Aston Martin, putting himself P19. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that Aston Martin driver, because to see how well that maybe goes around. Ashley, of course, you were saying that car could go very well around here. Sam Clark will round out the top 20 from Matthias Goretzky, and then Helder Sekera in P22. Onto row 12, we find Dustin Reicher and Gabriel Schmidt, 2 German drivers, and it's going to be an all-German 13th row of the grid with Nino Anschel and Marcus Blum from Victorious Racing Union and Core Sim Racing 3 respectively. Francesco Salentano will start 27th alongside the Portuguese driver of Pedro Botello Moniz with Martino Pugnoli alongside Camden Kraft with Francesco Sala, and then the German Daniel Gruber in 32nd. Davide Vitarizi will be alongside his compatriot Simone Silvestri with Russ Fowler in 35th. Then we find Gabriele Rizzo in his car for the North Sim Racing team, with Daniel Badarek and Kansin Haddal, with Breno Franco and Augustus Dabilavishkas, and then no time for Axel Falloy, Josh Angel, Alessio Tuoso, Andres Vontobel, John Larson, Valerio Leiter, and Leon Olukuju in that Audi. That will round off the 24 rows here at the Nurburgring Nordschleife, and they will line up before this 1 hour race here at one of the most beautiful circuits in the world.
Oh dear, love it. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. We've got a pit stop in here as well, so that's the strategy element that's going to also come into play. I personally think this race is going to be won on fuel consumption, and I'll tell you why. It is such a long lap, of course, as we know. It's going to be over 8 minutes. That pit stop in the middle is going to be mandatory, and the reason being they've only got 60% of their fuel on board. So they're going to have to do it whether they like it or not. I don't know about tyres. That's going to be an interesting thing to see whether some go for it or not. But the warm-up is definitely going to be the first few sectors if they do. But yeah, if they can save as much fuel as possible, they're going to have, of course, a shorter stop. That could be where the difference is made, particularly if they are racing very closely with one another.
They will be looking at just potentially at that fuel gauge. I think a lot of this time, I think that's one of the best challenges. That's one of the best challenges that you're looking everywhere on this racetrack, at the racetrack, at your gauges, at your fuel, your tires, your damage as well, to keep an eye out for that. 3 drivers are not gridded, so Camden Craft will not be taking to the grid. Valerio Leiter for the Vortex Racing Brazil team, he will not grid in his Ford Mustang. And for the Lamborghini, John Wiggo Larson for the Black Line Sim Sport team, the Norwegian will not take to the grid here. So that 3 drivers, I just wonder if maybe one of those reasons is potentially just trying to maybe, as you say, get through the chaos. That's going to be something to really keep an eye out for. But just final bits from you, Ashley. You've already mentioned fuel, but what else are you what is getting you excited about this race? What are you going to be looking for? Who are our main kind of drivers to look out for?
I mean, that's hard, because lap time is one thing, keeping it safe and survival is another. So the drivers that can put in a decent lap time, but of course most importantly, keep it on the straight and narrow, is going to be the ones that prevail and win out the day. Because if you could be quick round here all you want, you can have 4 or 5 seconds over your competitors, but if you put a wheel over a curb that you shouldn't have done, or dip it in the grass, the barrier comes up on you very quick here. Damage is a nightmare. It's going to be race over for you pretty much at that point. So it's going to be the guy that can keep it the cleanest but still produce some decent pace as well. So it's hard to judge, but we're going to find out now because they're rounding Tiergarten, final corner. We're about to go green. Muted.
So here we go, round 4 of the ARL GT3 trophy at the Nurburgring Nordschleife. We are racing at the Nurburgring. Leon Mischke gets off to the best start that he possibly can, but look at Fabian Feldman there in the Ford Mustang looking to try and attack down it towards number 1. He's not quite able to be there. Look at Rogers and Miller on the outside in their respective Ferraris, just trying to get their way through the field. I'm sure there'll be a little bit of biffing and bashing in each of those categories. They had their way through the Mercedes-Benz S for the first time before then heading out there. Splash from the rear of Leon Mischke as he's just now having to defend here from Remy Crozat, it seems. So that the Frenchman is going to be right on the attack. Early doors in the cars round. I wonder if that is Yaroslav Dimitrov in the Mercedes. Awful start from him.
Yeah, he's down 24 spots. I was trying to keep an eye on the timing tower for who is dropping further down the order. Ruben Iglesias in his BMW's lost 14 spots at the start here. That's Daniel Gruber off into the gravel through the right-hander of the Ford S. That's going to be a painful start to this race, but plenty of time to get back in. Luckily, no damage there for the German, so he'll carry on. Further, back up the front, there's not many changes there. They seem to have all gotten away fairly cleanly. Biggest winner so far I can see is Simone Silvestri. He's up 10 spots from his starting block.
I'm going to try and pop your bubble a little bit, up 12 for Andreas von Tabel into 32nd. He hasn't been, it's the most kind of gained positions, but, he's still in the lower half of the standings. It looks like Camden Craft has managed to get away from his pit lane start. Looks like Augustus Dabielewicz in the Gas Up Motorsports Mercedes hasn't quite been able to. He's managed to get away, but I think he's stopped at the minute, so he might be in the pit lane. Off track there for Leon Olakuju, but they're now heading in towards Hatton back for the first time this race, and the sun is starting to set here, so this is going to be something to really keep a keen eye out for as Feldman wiggles his way through this next sequence of corners.
Yeah, this circuit's a beast when it gets dark. I can tell you there's obviously no lighting. It is all done with your headlights. So you are driving with what you have on the car. It really is... It's scary, I can tell you, but it is also thrilling at the same time, especially when you get into that, what I would call the flow state. I think Ayrton Senna was a big believer in that, and he would have told you once you find that moment and you can just repeat it and not think about it, that's when the lap time comes in, and that is something always special to be able to get into. But so far so good. I'm surprised how clean they've all been into the first part of the Nordschleife. We just saw there Badarek into pit lane, so clearly something has not gone quite his way at the start here, but Leon Mischke still leading the way, but only just ahead of Remy Crozat.
Yeah, indeed. So ignore the timing standings there with Daniel Badarek being up at the top. Here is your leader right now, Leon Mischke into P1. Patrick Schmidt has also managed to keep the Pro-Am lead, but they head their way in towards Hohe Arkt for the first time, just getting the car rotated around, and it's going to really be kind of the story of the season here. Is Mercedes versus Ford filling up the first the first 5 positions. Mercedes, Ford, Mercedes, Ford, Mercedes is your top 5, followed by the 2 Ferraris in 6th and 7th. Oh dear, I just said the two numbers by accident. I didn't even mean to say it. That is Fabio Noguia in P9 here. He's just about trying to chase down. Oh, there's a car in the wall. It's Carl Winkler. That another car potentially gone off as well. I thought I saw an extra little bit of tyre smoke, so looks like the German not having the best of times at his home track here. Let's have a look at this one here, Ashley.
Yeah, it's a bit. Is he going to get tagged from behind by the looks of it, potentially? This is a very fast sector. You're just lifting off the throttle, but oh, he's gone in with that with too much heat onto the grass, and that's what I was talking about. It does not take a lot. One small error, and he is off into the barrier. The rear right tyre clearly fell off its axle, and he has got a long wait to be towed back to pit lane there. Of course, you saw the meatball flag, so he had some necessary repairs, but he'll get his fast repair out of that, so it might not be too bad for him, you know, but he is definitely going to be far down the order, and probably just hoping for others around him potentially to have a bit of misfortune. But Carl Winkler, yeah, what a shame there.
Yeah, he will look to hopefully do better in the races to come. Leon Mishka still leading the way. They head their way on towards Kesselchen. And then the Muck curve is about to appear in front of their eyes. Who will be able to be braver with the car? Still trying to get it up to its optimal temperature. They'll pierce their way past the guardrails that hang right off the edge as well. So we'll get a lap 1 replay here. This is Leon Olakuju in the Audi. So I think he drops it there on the X of the corner. And oh dear, that looks like a one crabbing Audi. We're going to have a look back here. Grabs a lot of curb, unsettles the car, and it just says, nope, I cannot do that. And he just backs into what I thought was a car. Oh no. That is what you get for not holding your car. The car starts then crabbing all over the shop, and then it gets on the curb, spins. Oh my word, that could have been even worse than originally thought.
It's a shame there for Leon. If I'm being honest, it's the car doesn't quite fit the track. The Audi, a lot of the performance comes down to the fact that it sits incredibly low to the road surface, and around a circuit such as this, with all the bumps, undulations, this is probably one of my favourite part of the circuit here. And you know, but you can see there the curbs, you kind of need to touch them but not really ride them. But the Audi, where it sits so low, it cannot ride them in the slightest. So it's a real shame there for Leon. He's going to have a tough evening, I think, here as we jump back to lap number 1. We're finding out what happened here with Iglesias. He dropped a few positions down the order. He just lost on his own.
Yeah, that's going to be massive disappointments for Ruben Iglesias. You know, you're really kind of thinking about that situation, but he hasn't really been able to, you know, get away with a lot of damage there. So he's still relatively safe. This is Davide Vittoriti, one of the top runners in the amateur class. Oh, gets tagged around in the Porsche. Oh my goodness, look at that BMW there. I would love to know who that was, because that was some real close action. And you can see them some more cars then on the inside grass. That's going to be some weird location for other cars. And here we go, Gabriel Rizzo. This is actually the car that was just avoiding his compatriot.
Yeah, that was really impressive reflex.
Wow.
It does not get closer than that. That was really impressive there from Rizzo. And my word, he did incredibly well. No damage for him, thankfully, in all of that as well. So he'll be happy. But God, you don't want to. You can't cut it any finer. As we're still getting more around. There's Vittoriti. There he goes. This is Badarek, and Badarek lost it all on his own. Oh, and he collected Josh Angel for good measure. That wasn't it. That Angel had nowhere to go to. That's not Badarek's fault though.
No, I think that's just a typical lap 1. And we join back here with the live action, and look at this. This is Leon Mishka being put under a big amount of pressure here from Remy Crozat, and hopefully we will get a change in the timing screens as we now see down the main straights. We'll see Leon Mishka now look to just get away here from Remy Crozat, but it looks like the straight isn't long enough for the Ford Mustang to climb on the attack. Meanwhile, in the background, Patrick Schmidt's about to make an overtake here on Denis Baraktanovic, the Bosnian, handing over the place, whilst Schmidt just, I think, is more defending, or did he? No, he is still in 4th place here, so I think that was more of a defensive move than anything from Schmidt.
It looked of that nature, and I tell you, he's looking increasingly under threat, though, here from Baraktanovic, as they now make their way towards the Ford S and get down towards the hairpin of the Dunlop curve. We may see a move on here. He is incredibly close to the back of Schmidt's Mercedes. Has the Ford got the grunt? I would imagine if anything is going to go up against the Merc in that manner, the Ford is the one to have, but it doesn't look like it's really a big enough launch down there into Dunlop, and no way by for the minute. He really wants to try and get this move done before they head into the forest, because if he is holding him up here in the Grand Prix layout, I would imagine he's going to hold him up even more when they get into the actual Nordschleife.
Yeah, I wonder if it was actually an overtake, because it was Mercedes Ford, Mercedes Ford, Mercedes, and that Mercedes now is making it a Mercedes Ford, so a potential overtake here. Meanwhile, Russ Fowler, I think he's been involved in. Oh no, that's a big accident! Wow, that's not going to be what Russ Fowler, whatever he wants there. So that's going to be terrible luck on the side of Russ Fowler. But yeah, it's just a half spin from the Ferrari. This was Kansin Havdal pulling over to the side. So it looks like he's pulled over with suspension issues, and Havdal is in fact now out of this race, and that's going to be real unfortunate now as we hit the 10-minute mark into this 1 hour race, a 60-minute race. So 6 of the race already gone.
Yeah, that corner, the Mut curve, is you're climbing up the hill for a long old time. You are flat out all the way up there, and then by the time you get to that left hand of the Mut curve, you're probably in gear 5. Depends on your car, but I would imagine you're in gear 5. It is a very slight lift of the throttle to just nudge the nose in, and then you're flat back on the floor again. So it was a really oh, that's Miska! Miska is round! He's dropping down the order. That is a horrible place to lose it as well, just on the little run up towards the Foodplats. And he's doing a very good Austin Powers impression here, but my word, he's going to have to wait for the whole field, I fear. Oh, that was close.
Yeah, he's going to have to. Let's have a look at the replay. So he's getting put under real pressure here from Remy Crozat. He grabs just a bit of curve. Yeah, he grabs that inside curve, spins round, taps the barrier on that left-hand side, and it just manages to hold. It breaks a lot of drivers not being able to do the same thing. But yeah, there he is, down in 32nd. How much damage does that Mercedes have? Because this is, huge, huge. And there's going to be Simone Silvestri. Oh my goodness me. That could have been all sorts of Larry. I had my hands in my head at that second. Because, my God, sorry, that was Nino Anshel. My massive apologies on that part. That Mercedes almost in the barriers. When you go on that grass, you're pretty much done 9 times out of 10. And he managed to get that 1/10 chance set upon him somehow.
I try to remember the series it was here on Apex Racing, but we've had that incident before. I think it was also the GT3s. Yeah, you get a wheel on the grass, you brake hard, because there's a very hard braking zone there into Arenberg. And yeah, I think 2 cars collided together and they just went up over the barrier and just flew straight up into the air. Of course, simulation, so no one hurt, but it was a mighty impressive incident. So I thought we may have got a carbon copy. Thankfully, we haven't. They're all racing forward in the right direction, but this is a nice little battle we've got going on here. A lot of Mercedes together, and there's one little Acura in there for good measure, although I think they're slightly further up the road. But this is what we come to see, and this is what really brings alive the Nurburgring, is when you get little packs like this, because it's so hard to overtake, but it's mighty impressive to watch them follow each other.
Yeah, indeed. You've also got Held Sequeira as well in the background. He is in the Porsche, and I think Francesco Sala is going to try and attack in that BMW. So I'll be interested to see how that all kind of works out here. Sam Clark off into the barrier. He says he's sideways off the track here. That's a really, really tough place as well, because you go over the crest and you're pretty much blind. And now he's returned to the pits. Look how many drivers are out. Larson, Fowler, Dimitrov, Olakuju, Clark now joins the graveyard of the Nordschleife. Heading up the hill through that right-handed, the car just bossing me out slightly, and then it was just going on the curb, and that was kind of the final final moment. My word, that could have been so close, and it's just one of those scary moments where you're like, do not hit me, do not hit me. Thank God we're in simulation.
You're in simulation, but it's terrifying, especially when you're stranded in the middle of the circuit like that. And you've got cars coming over the crest blindly at you at full throttle. It's terrifying, I can tell you. So fair play for returning to pit lane there, because it takes it's a strong decision to do that, but I think maybe the right one in that, as his Mishka up towards just before the carousel gets it done late onto the braking there. Lovely overtake from Leon Mishka on Vitariti. And he'll say thank you very much.
He will. That was a really top move into that corner just before Carola Carousel. And he will just try and push on forward to see whatever positions he can get. Here is third and fourth in the Pro-Am class. Marcus Fox here in P10 overall. Daniele Cialfi just in behind. So the Austrian up against the German driver. And the Dark Knights Rises kind of all black Porsche really pushing forward. It should be a core Sim Racing 1 livery, but something clearly hasn't worked, unfortunately, with the paint schemes on this one this time. So he'll look to try and push right on forward as he now looks to approach the next right-hander. Remember that section, yeah, it's so famous for going airborne. A director in my years was very much surprised at that section, but it's a section that has always kind of been airborne. It's around, this twisty section that does have those sets of corners, and it's some of the best pictures you will see at the Nurburgring. But look at Cialfi now being put under pressure here by Derek Heiberger. Let's see what Derek Heiberger can do in his brand new Mercedes, because of course he's had some great results but also some bad results, and I just wonder what the kind of strategy is with the US driver.
I mean, it's going to be a patient one, I would imagine. But I mean, coming on to the Dottinger Her now, the long back straight, if he can just sit in the slipstream, and he's going to have a double dosing of it as well, because Fox's Porsche is also going to help them out, but that might mean he struggles to get past Cialfi. But let's have a little look here, because you are in that double slipstream. You're going to gain a lot of extra speed, and you can probably, I would imagine he's definitely going to get up to the 270 mark. Look, he's almost already there. 268, 269. Now the downhill, he'll definitely get over to 270, maybe 275, 6. Oh, 7 as well. Brilliant stuff there. Real committed as well. Now you're hard onto the brake for Tiergarten. Get as close to that barrier as you dare. Clip it over the curbing to maximise the exit here onto the start-finish. And yeah, that double dosing of the slipstream obviously wasn't enough.
No, I think it's just because it's such equal machinery. It's Mercedes versus Mercedes in that case. That Porsche was able to just hang on just that little bit. I'd love to see kind of the top speed that the Porsche is doing as the fuel starts to just burn down here. We're on lap 3 of this race as Francesco Sala makes his way into the pits for the North Sim Racing Green team. This is going to be a fuel stop, so no tyres being done, only fuel, which is, I think, is interesting because they're clearly wanting a how do I put this? They're clearly wanting a quick stop. No kind of extra time added for a little bit of tyres, which may or may not be what they need. The tyres can go pretty far in these GT3 cars, and that's exactly what they're being shown. And again, look at this Silvestri up against what would be Nico Ansel in the battle for 19th and 20th overall.
I mean, if you had full fuel, the tyres are going to do the hour, no problem. They'll get, if you're thinking of 100% scale, they'll get to around about 60, I reckon. This is the battle for P3. Schmidt just clipping the gravel. as they make their way through the incredibly quick right-hander. This is the chicane just at the end of the Grand Prix layout now of this circuit, and Barek Tarovic is very clearly ahead now as they venture on to the Nordschleife. So I think Schmidt's going to be in for just following, maybe try and learn something about your rival there as well, because they've been fighting very hard for pretty much the entirety of this race so far. There it was the puddle put him off.
Oh, a bigger moment there in the race of Denik Tarovic, and I'll just the Bosnian driver, having a little bit of struggles already here on the Nordschleife up. He does not need that kind of that amount of struggles here. But it looks like Schmidt now in P4, Barek Tarovic in P3. So that was down to Mishka's mistake now. Now inviting the Bosnian driver into P3. So I think I thought it was a mistake of the Mercedes driver. So now moving on here, Daniele Cialfi still passing away for third and fourth in the Pro-Am class. The Austrian still ahead of the Mercedes with Derek Heiberger still trying to go in chase here. They pass their way on towards Schredenskreuz. It's fast left-hander down the hill before the hard-braking section of Argenberg, which will catch out so many different drivers. It's just about getting the right braking point, maybe using a different line, because look at the banking on this sequence, and you're still diving down here. They now head in towards Foxhole and in towards Adenauer Force. Barek Tarovic still having to play the defensive role here against Patrick Schmidt, but I wonder if this battle will be taken to the pit lane.
It could well be. I guess we'll find out when we get round to it. I mean, interestingly for these two as well, is they're not far off of Feldman and Crozat. The gaps are surprisingly close, and I say that is a couple of seconds, but for this circuit so long, that really is nothing. So it is definitely something that could be closed up, as this is Pugnoli then trying to have a little look at taking 23rd away from Inglesias there in his BMW. You may see here, if we stay on board with this battle for a little bit, you may see the Beamer. It will be able to mount the curbing a lot better. And that was what I was talking about when I mentioned the cars that I would say potentially have a bit of a preference, as I think we're going to jump away from it. But or maybe we might see it in full effect here. But I would imagine the Porsche struggles a little bit more with that.
Yeah, it's just one of those. I think the Porsche is, designed for its certain capabilities, and it does not like curves apparently. Up against the BMW, look at that down into Foxhole. This could get very, very scary. Ruben Iglesias managing to go on through, because I think in that moment, Martino Pugnoli just thought, if I stay here, I'm going to have a massive accident and ruin my race. So, well done to Pugnoli to backing up there. But now he's got the Ford Mustang here of Pedro Botello Moniz. And he's one of just the very few amateurs that are going to be on this circuit. He's currently sitting second. He's got a great opportunity here, has Moniz. He's currently 25th overall. But now he's starting to gain on Ruben Iglesias Martino Pugnoli in the Renova competition Porsche. What does Moniz do? Because he's also got Leon Mishka in behind him. We know how much on a charge Mishka is. So this is going to be a big battle to contend with, because you've got some big places to decide in the Pro-Am, in the amateurs, and the pros here. Here's Leon Mishka making yet another move on another Mercedes here. It just goes on by, which I think was that maybe Marcus Blum potentially. It does look to maybe be that in the Woodward Esports car. So some really strong results so far, but again, this battle is really starting to build up to a great amount.
Yeah, it certainly is. I'm surprised they already cleared the uphill section, and they're now coming up to the carousel. That seemed to go in a blink of an eye, pretty much, as I think Pugnoli is going to be holding them up a little bit here, particularly Mishka there. But Moniz, like you said, he's been closing in. He's got some pace, clearly, in that Ford Mustang. Very, very capable, as Celentano has just gained another spot. So the bench post moving away. That's a car off on the right there. That's Silvestri. I wonder if we'll get a replay of that in a moment's time. Awful place to be spun round as well. I tell you, because you're blind, he's just coming up over the right.
Oh no!
He's put off the Porsche too much. He's just gotten into the barrier as well. And Silvestri does get away safely. Wow.
That was Daniel Gruber. We'll have a look at what happens here. So Simone Silvestri, you're seeing there in the middle, in his Mercedes, the one that kind of fades from white to green to red. It goes very, very early into the corner, skips across the grass, and the rear is still unhappy. Then he has to move forward into this off-road section, trying to get it turned around, and you'll see the Porsche coming up very, very soon. The BMW has an off of Rizzo. Then we'll see the Porsche coming up the hill. He has no idea what's going on. Then having a big old tank sapper hitting the barrier on the inside line. Oh, that could have been even worse than suspected. Also seeing someone falling down on the timing screen. They're a big, big name to one of our classes. Let's see if we can pick them up. Yeah, and there we go. Oh no, it's Dominic Engel. This is not who I was talking about. His rear wing is gone. The Course Sim Racing 2 driver of Dominic Engel is out. Someone who's also off track is Marcus Fox in the Course Sim Racing 1. So in the space of 30 seconds, 2 of the Course Sim Racing drivers have had offs. This is disastrous from them. This is Marcus Fox's off. He's in his Porsche at the front here in the all-black car. What happens here in towards this next corner? Ah, the rear just goes backing into the barrier. Oh, reverse. Oh my goodness me, gets hit, and that's where Engel lost his front. Lost his front. That could have. That's disastrous for Course Sim Racing. And remember, they entered with multiple teams, and what are the chances that both their cars have hit each other?
Yeah, it's a shame. It's another one of those blind corners. As we're just being told, Mishka is in the pits. This is out of the second carousel. I mean, he's just squeezed him too much, and look what has happened. The consequences of that. As more cars getting into contact, that's another awful corner to be stopped at. But Mishka, he's going to probably tow from there. Rear wing gone. Yeah, we're being confirmed he has. So he's in pit lane. And Leon's Mishka, his evening going from bad to worse. What a shame as well. Because he definitely had the pace to just keep picking up positions. He really didn't need to force it, I feel.
Oh, that's going to be such a heartbreaker there for Leon Mishka. It's just gone from bad to worse to ugly for the Season 9 GT3 Pro Champion. Meanwhile, Andreas von der Belt is currently up 17 places. However, he is not the one that's gained the most places. That has gone to Axel Filloy in the ACA Esports BMW. He's managed to make himself, put himself up into 23rd. Here he is. He's just got past Gabriele Rizzo in the other BMW. Marcus Blum as well, just in behind. So I'll be interested to see what Filloy can do in terms of pace, because he's now going to be coming upon Pedro Botello Moniz in about 4 seconds time. Is the gap to the amateur in the amateur. Let's have a look once again at Leon Mishka, because this was some really again, it's another squeeze. He tried the aggressive big smash into the barrier, and then it looks like just another BMW getting involved, and that was all sorts of horrible moment.
I just don't know where he expected him to go, if I'm being completely honest. It's just, you want to squeeze him to maximise your own corner entry speed, but I mean, you're on the inside line through that part of the circuit. You've got the move basically done by having the inside line and being alongside. So I'm not quite sure what Mishka was sort of thinking at that moment, but you forget about it, you move on, you focus on the next round now at this point, and that's what I'd be doing if I was Mishka. So the only advice, be a goldfish, forget about it and move on.
I love that. Track temperature is starting to go down, with the air temperature staying roughly the same. Track temperature has fallen about 1.1 whatever degrees, but yeah, it's fallen a degree or two since the start of this race. So the sun clearly setting. I'm just waiting for that final minute where the drivers are going to have to turn on their sunbeams, their beams, and then just try and have to negotiate the circuit like that. Let's have a look at Pierre Verne, because we said at the beginning, at the top of the broadcast, that this Aston Martin could go very well, depending who's at the wheel, because we know that Hayden Miller has switched from the Aston Martin to the Ferrari. He currently sits in 5th, 2.5 seconds behind Denis Badek-Tadevich, who has had to actually hand over 3rd place there to Patrick Schmidt. So they are batting like there's no tomorrow. So I was maybe right about this turning into a battle in the pit lane here. Pierre Verne still holding ground here against Gabriel Schmidt of the Rovex Racing GT team. And what is going to happen here? Because Pierre Verne pretty quick, but it looks like Schmidt is also looking pretty quick. And this was the battle between Patrick Schmidt and Patrick Schmidt and Badek-Tadevich. So it just looks like a simple overtake there from the Mercedes.
Yeah, nice easy one there into turn 1, and he'll just block the apex. So Badek-Tadevich can't really come back at him into that Mercedes arena complex. So nice and simple there. But back to Verne here in the Aston. The reason why I picked it out, Adam, it's our car of choice going into the 24 this weekend. This is what we are going to be running, is the Aston Martin. We've picked it, if we want to give it a bit of a booster here, if you like. We've picked it based on its sort of survivability, stability, and its fuel consumption. It's, in my opinion, one of the best cars out there for fuel consumption. It can save very well. It has a slightly larger fuel tank than some of them, 106 litres. It is very stable. It has a nice V8, so it sounds very nice. And it can take a fair chunk of hits. It can survive a lot. We've had a few moments racing this season where it's had a big whack and doesn't really seem to affect it. So that's why we've chosen the Aston, and that's why I went for it this evening. That it should be a pretty decent car.
Yeah, that's a pretty good advice there. If you want a strong, stable car, choose the Aston with a big V8 at the front. What's better than a big British V8? Maybe our answer to the American Ford Mustang, but everyone seems to be absolutely loving the American V8. Maybe a little bit more than the V8 that is put in the same Mercedes and Aston here. So what about Daniele Cialfi, who we're looking at 3rd in the Pro-Am at the moment, being chased down by Derek Heiberger. Battle for 10th and 11th overall, but charging their way in towards this next sequence of corners, and that was earlier where we had our 2 incidents, one of them being, I think, Daniel Gruber, and other drivers. I think it wasn't Badarek, it was somebody else, but we won't dive too deeply into that. Now we're heading through Wipperman and on towards what is now Brunschen, coming up soon. But yeah, these are just incredible pieces of corners. Or we head through this section, this next right-hander, which we love to call YouTube Corner.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen a lot of those, I'm sure, as everyone else has through the, you could say, years at this point as well, definitely. I tell you what, it's probably one of my favourite parts of this circuit. It is so fun to get right, especially when you get down to the part there. The car hops off the circuit, you get a bit of airtime, and you get it also once again through this next left hand. If you get very close to the inside line, the front wheels just lift, and it's so satisfying when they touch down again and you regain full control of the car, because you are flat out through that part. So one small error and it really can spell curtains to your race. So getting it right is always satisfying to do. So for me, favourite part of the circuit right there.
Love that. Honestly, there was some really good parts of the circuit. If anyone in comments, put your favourite part of the Nordschleife. We would love to hear your answers. So put them down in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Apex Racing TV. Meanwhile, Dominic Engel's having a big old tussle in his Mercedes. That's such a classic kind of combination, Engel and Mercedes. And I'm not talking about just simulator. I'm talking about real life as well. Yeah, if you don't know Maro Engel, go searching him up. Incredible racing driver. Meanwhile, we have Jensen Andreasen, the Belgian driver who looks to be, I'm not going to say on the attack, but I'm not going to say on the defense here, against Fabian Nogueira. Nogueira trying to get through as it looks like the pit lane is open for all to get into. So now these are going to be big options being casted upon our drivers. They're going to be fueling right up. And let's have a look at this move for P10 here, Ashley.
Yep, Derek Heiberger. I think he may have finally got it done on Cialfi then. Nice and easy one down the Dottinger Hurt. And he's got Kunaf just in front of them. I think just a little bit of a distant toe, maybe helping him out just a touch. This is now the hard part though, into Tiergarten, especially if you're side by side. It's who's the bravest on the brakes. And on that occasion, it definitely was Heiberger. He takes that spot. And but now it looks like everybody's in the pit lane and everyone's now venturing out again at the same time. Crozat still maintains the lead from Fellman, but the gap looks like it's dropped a touch there, only 1.2 seconds.
Unbelievable. Some really, really top pit stops coming in here. We're just having a look at how busy this is. That 3 Mercedes 4 I just saw in the background. You see the amounts that are just appearing here. So we'll get a great idea of what this all maybe looks like once we get into this stage of everyone exiting the pit lane, because of course there'll be some taking tires, some taking just fuel, and yeah, they will have to kind of keep an eye out for everyone. This is how busy the pit lane at the Nurburgring can get, so nobody's kind of taking risks with fuel stop. I think it would just kind of push all the way through. You know, we're all pitting at some point. We've all got mandatory stops to make, so why not just, you know, push it all and, you know, fill up to what we need to do. And again, we now find ourselves with Remy Crozat up against Fabian Feldman. 1.4 seconds of the gap between the two of them. But, of course, that could extend or diminish as time goes on. Schmidt ahead of Balaktadovich. The Mercedes ahead of the Ford. Miller still ahead of Rogers. Andresen still ahead of Nogueira. But the gap there still less than a second. Kunath and Heiberger rounding out the top 10 with 4 Mercs coming in just coming around that area.
Yeah, it's shaping up quite well, this is, at the moment, particularly with the battle of the podium still underway here between Schmidt and Balaktadovich. I mean, there's quite a lot of cars on the circuit that are all within a second of one another. I'm looking down there at P14. Pierre Verne in his Aston Martin, he's right behind Goretzky. Grossman, Schmidt as well, Gabriel Schmidt, that is, all relatively close on circuit. That is a Acura that Grossman is driving there as well, the one and only in the field. But this is the thing with the Nurburgring, and this feels like at the moment very much sort of the opening start to the 24-hour race, where everyone is still really close on the circuit to each other in relation to the sort of speed and survivability of the circuit. Not too much fanning out, but of course, you know, with anything, it can change in a heartbeat, and that's what makes it exciting at the same time, because normally you get another 23 hours after this, but at the moment it's going to be, you really need to get a move on at this point, because it is a sprint of only 1 hour.
Through we go on towards the twisting section of Hatzenbach, and here is Patrick Schmidt looking to try and put himself on an overall podium here, but he's got Denis Balaktadovich right in behind in his Ford Mustang, who's going to be grumbling along the main straights here. But of course, that front engine of the Mercedes being really efficient for Patrick Schmidt. And I think his driving overall has just been superb compared to the others around him. The only German currently sitting on a podium, looking through the entirety of the results, is Crozat from Feldman from Balaktadovich in the overall. Oh, that's going to be Andres Montebel! That's absolutely massive, because he was up 20 places from his starting position before going off the road. Let's see what happened to the Swiss driver who looked so promising in this qualifying session. He's heading through the Sabine Schmidt curve, renamed after one of the biggest kind of personalities of the Nordschleife. And oh, big old kind of spinneroonie from the rear end. And look at that, the BMW going there in the background. If you just had a look at the left-hand side, there's a lot of tyre smoke. This was Gabriel Rizzo looking down towards turn number 1. Is he going to spin it off the exit? Oh, he has a bit of a moment. Goes slightly off track. So I think that's just a very slow BMW. And that kind of alerted our incidents in that place. This is Leon Olakuju in the Audi heading in towards Miss it Misnin. Oh, dear. That's a car sliding around. Will he continue? Great question. I think he just about gets away with it.
Fair play for sticking it out to Leon there. He could have easily have just quit the race and given it up today, but he is still pushing through. It's a sign of a sort of true sportsmanship at the same time, but also perseverance and dedication. So big round of applause for Leon, I'll say, in that, because he could quite easily have just called it a day, but he is still out there racing, which is brilliant to see, I will say. As we jump back here to this battle then for P14, or sorry, I should say P13, sorry, up for grabs. But we are riding on board here with Pierre Verne and his Aston Martin once again, as they just make their way now down towards the Lauda Links. And then onto what I would probably say one of the most important corners on this circuit, Bergwerk. And that is because after this corner, you have got a lengthy climb up the hill. You really want to make sure you get a good exit here, because you are flat to the floor for a very long time.
You are. For me, it's just one of those corners I don't really like. It just goes on forever, ever. And it's just such a tough one. Oh my goodness, Pierre Verne getting right onto the grass. And that could have been all sorts of air and square. I think that's Dustin Riker. He has managed to tick on. But yeah, that was heart in mouth stuff for the driver and the commentators here in the comms box.
I mean, brilliant at the same time, though. I mean, wow, absolute giant cojones, you could say, there from Pierre Verne, especially at that point of the circuit. Could have quite easily gone the wrong way, but it didn't. It paid off, and he took the position as well. Probably at a very crucial time now as you venture after the carousel and into sort of the back part of this circuit. You really don't want anybody holding you up if you can, as that was two going side by side. The Schmidt took the long way, couldn't get in, but it didn't seem to affect him all that much, because he's still going side by side into the grass, slight bit of contact, back on the road and still under his own steam. Guys, getting feisty now.
Oh dear, there's a Mercedes on the curb doing it Tony Hawk style down through the sweeping section of Hedrickson and Vipperman. Then they'll twist their way through this fast section. I really like this section. It's just because the undulation and how fast you are through that section. It's such a high-risk section. Now we look back here to Patrick Schmidt and Dennis Badek-Tadevich. They'll head through on towards Schwalbenschanze after negotiating the Stefan Beloff S. You can see Schmidt there on the grass there. Just trying to straighten out his steering, and that's Tom Kunath, who has gone off the road. He's allowed Derek Heiberger in as well, as Schmidt had another incident. He had a yellow flag at some stage, but we now look back here with Patrick Schmidt and Dennis Badek-Tadevich. Down the straight they will head on towards the Dottinger Horn, and now you can see the Ford right in the slipstream. The Bosnian driver will look to pull out at some point. He flicks his way up into 6th gear. What time do you pull out here? You've got to do it pretty soon. Is that rain on the visor? I wonder if that's maybe something that's potentially appearing, but I think that was just a quick wipe from the windscreen wipe, and now he's going to pull out just before he heads downhill. He's had all the slipstream that he possibly can, but that Mercedes is just unbelievable in a straight line speed. They'll head through in towards Tiergarten. Hahn on the brakes, and the Ford just doesn't have the same amount that the Mercedes does. It's just so strong in some of these corners. He's using all of the exit here, but will he be able to attack down in towards turn number 1? It's 17 minutes to go left of this race, and look at that again. The Mercedes with the exit is just unreal.
It is crazy. It really is crazy at this moment. I don't know what they've done, iRacing, but the Merc does seem to be on top form.
No.
As this is Moniz. further down the order. Something has happened there. He's very, very slow as they make their way onto the Dottinger. Let's get a. I'm hoping this is a replay of what has happened. It looks like it was out into the little carousel. Yes, it was. In he goes. Should be nice and hooked up. Oh, the bump. It's just unsettled it.
That's second in the amateurs. Sorry, I was trying to butt in there. But yeah, that's a really important fact. That was Pedro Botello. Moniz second in the amateurs. He's now dropped to fourth, and somebody else is dropping slightly. That was Jensen Andrensen. But now we look back here with Moniz, because this could get all sorts of Larry. He's now got what is one of the Mercedes. Oh, it's another Mercedes is crabbing. That's Dustin Riker. Dustin Riker was very, very close to being hit there. And there goes Daniel Gruber going straight through. Then the two BMW were approachable, Gabriel Rizzo and Francesco Sala. That could have been all sorts of scary. He's just holding up both BMWs. Now the car crabs his way into the pit lane. The Aero Esports driver, Dustin Riker, at his home race. Oh, dearie me. It has not gone well. I think Andreas Vontabell will continue with him as well. Oh, dear. Let's see what happens here. Ashley, take us away.
I think this is earlier on where we were watching this as it happened, and yeah, there's the little off we saw, but clearly something else goes on a bit further on here for Reinke, as he then makes his way up over the right-hander here. This is a tricky corner to get right. You don't really want to touch the curb, and it's this next part, right-hander, and then quickly flicking the car to the left. And now you do want to use some of the curb, but you are playing a risky bit of game there because it can unsettle the car. Up over the right, down to Ashback. Nothing so far then. Seems all okay. It must be a bit later on, surely. But it must something has obviously happened, because he's coming to the pit lane now. And we're just waiting to see whereabouts on this circuit. Comes up now to... I'm trying to remember the name of the corner now. Is it Faltzgarden? Little jump. Still nothing. Seems all very clear. Looks very neat and tidy, I'll add even. It's pretty good here from Dustin. It must be this next part, surely, because this is another danger zone. If you get it wrong over the second Faltzgarden, even there's neat and tidy. I tell you, it just looks like a decent lap here from Dustin.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those sections where it has to be...
There it is.
Oh, there we go. Just loses it out of the left-hander, and then it just starts crabbing away. Yeah, Riker, I don't know if that was just too fast into the corner, or if that was, you know, other reasons, but it just seemed like the car didn't like that turn-in that the Mercedes driver wanted. And again, Patrick Schmidt beautifully holding on to P3 against Denis Badaktadovich. How long before the Ford driver, the Bosnian, I nearly said another country then, but yeah, the Bosnian starts to get a little bit hot under the collar and tries to go for an audacious move at some point around the Nordschleife you just wouldn't really go for. Whoop.
Oh, that's the other thing that could happen. Just keep the pressure on and wait for the mistake, because that is something that can happen around here. Into miss, hit, miss now. Looking very good from these guys. And bear in mind, they're still only a few seconds off the two in front as well. So second and first is not a million miles away for these guys. So, that, you know, if anything did happen, they are there to pick up the pieces as well. But, I mean, at the moment, those two are looking at P3 and who is going to pick that one up, because I think Fellman and Crozat have been two of the most consistent drivers so far in this series. Crozat especially, as Schmidt putting the power down up over the corner and over the apex there, and just getting a little squirrely on exit, but it's looking really good, and Schmidt soaking up the pressure well so far.
Yeah, indeed. There's still some really, really strong drives left in this, and you can just see the lighting around the circuit is just starting to get that little bit darker around this circuit. The sun now starting to set behind the trees around the Nurburgring, Nurburgring, or the Eiffel region. I think is best to, that's the word I was looking for. Davide Vittoriti is currently just holding up this pack of cars. He's currently sitting second in the amateurs, and right behind him is Josh Angel in the Cronus GT McLaren. He's gone up 20 since his starting places. Oh dear, that could have been all sorts of scary, but the Mercedes has made a mistake. So the McLaren has made a mistake. Angel has handed the place over to Silvestri. Now here comes Pedro Botello Moniz, and Moniz back up to third, unless the McLaren can just keep it there. The all yellow and red car in the McLaren, that could have been very scary for Angel, but he's gone and he's dropped third place from the amateurs. Oh, that's going to be awful luck there for Angel. Just too much throttle, too throttle happy. He's gone back to the pits. Josh Angel is out at the Nurburgring.
Oh, what a shame there for Josh, because he was clearly just pushing it just a touch too much, and yeah, round he went through Callan Harden over the blind crest, and I tell you what, again, tough decision to tow that car, because he wouldn't have picked up or sustained a big amount of damage there. So that was purely just down to the layout of the circuit. It was safer for everybody involved. Just tow it. Tough decision for Josh though, because of course he was fighting there for the podium in class. So real big shame. This is Camden Craft though we're riding on board with, and he has got Moniz right up under his bumper. I'll tell you what, Pedro here, he's doing a really stellar job, I would say. He's third now for the amateur class, and he does seem to have some very good race pace.
He does. That's some really, really strong kind of. That's exactly what you need around the Nordschleife. You need some, really good good race pace, because it's a circuit that demands really, really confident driving. If you're not confident in your driving abilities, then what are you doing around this circuit? Axel Falloy in the BMW clipping the curb. I think just surviving. That could have been and then he makes a move on one of the Mercedes. That could have been all sorts of trouble. But yeah, Falloy up another place.
Yeah, lovely stuff there. Again, that Beamer, you can see it there, showing that it can definitely handle the curbs, no problem here. But yeah, clearly not the fastest so far, as this is going to be jumping back to the battle then for P3, and Barak Tarovic is finally going to get alongside Schmidt and his Mercedes up to Tiergarten now, side by side still, as they're going to be heavy onto the brakes, as close as you dare take it to that barrier. Barak Tarovic is going to have the inside line for the first part, and therefore he's just about got ahead as they turn into the left now onto the straight then of the start here, and Barak Tarovic has taken third away from Schmidt, as I think, yeah, we're definitely going to get 2 more laps of this Nordschleife Nürburgring. Adam, this is going to be interesting to see who comes out on top.
Yep, indeed it is. Barak Tarovic taking that third place then. So what could this potentially mean for the Bosnian driver who's been, after a podium for so long? He's not had the best of campaigns. He's been strong in some areas, but moments of improvements in other areas. So it's going to be something to just keep an eye out for every single time. Barak Tarovic, we know how strong he is as a driver. He can, he's continuously learning. Yeah, wow, this is some really strong stuff, I think, from the pair of them. I think Schmidt will also still have the pace in the Mercedes. I think it's just about, his confidence levels as the track will start to get a little bit darker. So I think it'll be, less moves happening within these final 8 minutes of the race.
Yeah, it could venture that way if people sort of lack a bit of confidence when the lights start to dim. This is Davide Vittoriti. He's just lost the spot there to Silvestri. He's now looking increasingly under pressure here from Camden Craft and Pedro Moniz right behind him, tucked under that Porsche's rear wing then. Down towards turn number 1 and into that Mercedes complex. May see a late move here, but Not by them, but instead it's going to be Moniz behind. He goes down the inside of Kraft there into turn one. He hooks it up nicely then at the apex, but has he got the speed to keep it alongside in this Mercedes Arena complex? He's still there or thereabouts, but Kraft with that inside line, with the advantage, does manage to hang on for just a moment. But Moniz is fighting and he's looking hungry.
Yeah, both of them are going to be wanting it as much as each other, but I think Camden Craft is the more crafty driver in that Corvette. He knows how to drive a race car. You know, he's got over 5,000 iRacing. Oh no! Pedro Botello Moniz takes out Camden Craft, and that for sure was not crafty whatsoever from the Portuguese driver. I expect a penalty, which would be absolutely awful because Moniz was on for a third place. He's third place at the minute in the amateurs, but now he's got Daniel Gruber about just over 1.6 seconds behind him now. So that's going to be a real problem. It extends to 1.8 now, but you know, there's still an opportunity. Any kind of penalty over maybe 4 seconds at this rate would definitely drop the Portuguese driver down a couple of places. We now look to Simone Silvestri, just ahead of these battling duo of Vitoriti and Moniz. Still so much up on offer here at the Nurburgring.
It's a shame there for Kraft. He's made a pretty decent comeback in this race, and you could tell he felt the full force of the Ford at the Ford curve there. Yeah, what a shame. And they'll just have to be goldfishes as well. Forget about it, move on, and just do the best you can. Still a battle going on there. We jump back on board with it. Here we go then. Silvestri has Davide Vitoriti right tucked up behind him as well. Only 4 attempts, so anything within a sort of second or less. I mean, around most circuits you would consider that a race, but even more so here, because where there is so many corners, you can make up so much more time in a lap and indeed in a section. So it is going to be very much race on if you are there or thereabouts within a second or two, as we're just going to get a replay here of Camden Craft as he makes his way onto the Nordschleife. I would imagine he's got a bit of damage, taps the wall. That looks a bit unstable, that car. And yeah, he's going to put it off.
So calls it a day then for the American driver. And I think that's now going to really sum up a Hyperion Racing. That they've really not had a good season. You know, not taking part in the races at Hockenheim. Oh dear, this could get a little bit dodgy. That's Moniz around the outside there of Vitoriti, and then this is going to be now down towards Foxhole. Could we see an overtake being complete there for Moniz? It has been complete. Ahead of the Porsche he goes of Davide Vitoriti. He's up into second, and now is a long way back from Francesco Celentano. Will he be able to get maybe 21st overall for the Raceforge X BCM team? Of course, Raceforge and BCM combining as two and rejoining drivers here. So Moniz, again, I still feel like a penalty is looming over the Ford driver's name here. Oh, look at that in the background. That could have been all sorts of trouble for Vitoriti and Grubov, and they'll continue their battle heading in towards the next right-hander here of Callanhard.
Penalty or not, it's not stopped him from racing, because he's jumped up to the back of Silvestri and he looks like he wants to get this position done and dusted and dart off down the road, because he's got some incredible pace in that Ford. Look at him, he's weaving there into the right-hander of... sorry, not the right-hander, it's the right then left complex there, but either way, he was just he's toying with him at that point. Clearly felt though... well, I can tell you it probably wasn't worth it, because he's lost out massively there to Silvestri, and now the guys behind him have closed back in. But yeah, this is it's a game of wits around this circuit as well. Survivability, but also psychology. And yeah, Moniz, he's sort of toying with them. He's darting over that line.
He is indeed. Vitoriti and Gruber, I thought we were about to go into maybe a part 3 of this battle, but obviously the gap is now starting to build up a little bit. But we are starting to tick down to the final minutes here at the Nordschleife for 3 minutes left to go. Will the drivers be able to get around in time? I think so. I think we discussed, I think, less than a minute maybe before they then cross the timing beam. Patrick Schmitz has been given a slowdown in his Mercedes. He's 9/10 of a second there of Baraktanovic, so that's going to be costly. He's extended that out to a second, and there goes Daniel Gruber off towards the muck curve, and that's Moniz in the barrier. What is Moniz doing? Because he was right there and off onto the Armcos, and there goes Moniz. The Portuguese driver has thrown it in the wall, thrown it all away. Oh, he tried to go on the outside of the Mercedes. He thought there was a little bit of an opportunity because the Mercedes was slow off the muck curve. It just ends in Moniz bending his suspension and having to call it a day. Oh dear. I'm heartbroken.
Yeah, that was over-ambition and a bit of lack of experience, that one. It's not a corner you really want to be trying to send it on. You sit behind and then you do it all in the braking zone of the next corner. But yeah, such a shame because he was looking really feisty here in the latter stages, was Moniz. As Tom Kunaf is round as well, just before the little carousel. And he's going to be dropping way further down the order. Did he pick up any damage, though? That's the crucial moment, if anything happened there. Or was it just a simple nudge round, loss of traction? Ooh, contact there. Who was that nudged Tom Knaf? It must have been Daniel Cialfi.
Yeah, that was Daniele Cialfi in the Aero Esports Mercedes. So fellow German drivers coming to blows, and we are now on to the final lap here at the Nordschleife. Remy Crozat looks to have had a bit of a blip in Hockenheim, but he is back to his winning ways. But of course, he's still got to survive a whole 15 miles of race circuits here at one of the most dangerous dangerous circuits in the entire world of motorsport. That Ford Mustang had just been so strong, but I just could have had a thing about this qualifying session that he's been a cut above the rest. Something I've also noticed, lovely pattern here. The ACA Esports teams, 16th, 17th and 18th, Iglesias, Sequeira, Filoy, really doing incredibly well amongst those little lot. Meanwhile, Gabriel Schmidt is about to have a move here potentially on Nico Anschel, but of course Anschel's had a lot to contend with, but you know, he's made his way up 11 places for the Virtuous Racing Union, and he's just having to keep defensive in this part.
Looks like the fog's descending out there, Adam. I think it's just the track getting darker, but you can see the spotlights. Obviously, it just looks like it's getting a bit foggy now. But yeah, I think it's just another thing to throw in there. Why not around the toughest circuit in the world? Schmidt unable to find a way past just yet on Anschel, but he's got, you know, about 8 minutes or so to find a move there. As Celentano, I can see he's just entering pit lane. So what has happened to Celentano? Is that a late pit stop for fuel? Maybe they've underfueled the car here or messed up the strategy a touch, having to do some splash and dashes. It certainly looks that way. I think he's under steam once again. So that is obviously another thing to just play into the hands of the guys able to do better on the fuel. Celentano was your amateur leader. Now it's Davide Vitariti, and he's got Daniel Gruber keeping him company for that spot.
Oh, there's a car around. It's Silvestri, who was right in front of Moniz. He was the driver, I'm pretty sure, that put Moniz into the barrier. And that's going to be a spin for Simone Silvestri. The Italian driver is going to have to continue on his way, but of course it's not what he wants overall. And Vitariti now leads the amateurs, but here comes Daniel Gruber. It is Porsche versus Porsche, and it's just this case of survival. The beam become more luminant around on this on these race cars now. It is really about survival at this rate. Vitariti from Gruber in the amateurs, and it looks like it'll be Francesco Celentano to round off the amateur podium, but It could have been first for the Mercedes driver, but a miscalculation with fuel sees him now drop to 25th. It is still Schmidt from Alex Rogers, from Daniele Cialfi in the Pro-Ams, with Krozat, Feldman and Baraktadovich in the Pros.
I still wouldn't rule him out. I only say that we don't know what the fuel load is on these guys that are still going around without stopping. They could get to the final few corners and they might run dry. We don't know yet. It's so tricky. And that's another layer to the Nurburgring, as that was a very opportunistic move by Gruber. Almost paid off for him. Luckily didn't make contact with Vitoriti there. And now into the forest they go. But the fuel load could still be a talking factor as we get round to the end of this lap, Adam.
Yeah, I think we've also... Have we had another driver drop? Yes, Axel Filloy. Remember I was talking about, you know, the ACA drivers in 16, 17, 18? Well, Filloy has just dropped down to 23rd. He was in the plus kind of... plus 20 from his grid position, so he's obviously made a mistake at some stage. This is it, actually. We managed to find it. So Axel Filloy in that BMW right at the back here, through the Schumacher S, right at the curb, the BMW, I think it just goes no, and he's already lost the boot of the BMW as well. Look at the rear of the car, he's already lost that section, and then you can see now it's dropping more position, but you can see the damage right there. That's a little bit strange. A complete exposure of, I think, the fuel tank, which is what you normally don't see with these race cars.
My initial thought would normally be weight saving. He's just trying to weight save. But no, it's going to be, of course, actual aero damage that's going to slow him down from that. You know, if it's really taken a whack, then potentially something's gone wrong with the axle for him, which is a shame, because it'll be a tough old lap round here if that is the case. This is Vitoriti we're riding on board with, as he is having to defend from Dominic Engel in his Mercedes, right tucked up behind him there, as Gruber has already fallen victim to Engel. And I think Vitoriti is not going to be too long before he does as well, as they now make their way into the Merksfeld. And then before we know it, they will be heading up towards Callan Harden and the triple right-hander. Miss, hit, miss. Really impressive part of the circuit this is as well. When we get down to it, of course, it's a lot of commitment from that corner, and that can sometimes separate a good from a great driver.
So through this next sequence, and then they'll head their way down the hill and on towards Wirsteifen. Oh, the Mercedes getting very close there. Dominic Engel. Engel was so connected to the rear of Vitoriti. Still trying to find a way, but look how illuminated the lights here on the cars are. Now they're going to start playing a couple of tricks here on the final half of this racetrack, where they're just going to start maybe flashing away at these drivers in front of them. Just try and say, don't focus on when you're braking, don't focus on your turning point. Look at the lights. Look at the lights in the background. Stop putting your eyes on the road ahead, and open the door wide open for me. So that's what maybe Dominic Engel might start trying. Down they go on towards Kesselchen. Well, we see a rough move here being made by Dominic Engel. He's going to just have to back off, because the curb was very much approaching at him at a high rate of knots. Now, through the Mutt curve, they all head. Is this going to be the move here maybe for Dominic Engel? But Engel will just drop him back. No point in making a move just there.
No, it'd be unwise to do that. We saw what happened with Moniz when he gave it a go on Silvestri a lap or so ago. And Engel doing the sensible thing, sitting behind for the moment. See if he gets a good exit here up to the carousel. I don't think it's going to be enough to get anywhere near alongside, and no, it is not. So it's just going to have to wait, as who is Blom? Blom's just missed the carousel completely. He's just lost 3 spots just like that. As maybe not because Gruber, no, he has Gruber also through as well. So Blom there just losing out 3 spots through absolutely no reason other than purely missing the carousel. As here comes Crozat then down the Dottingerher.
Well, it's been one of those grueling races. Despite only being an hour, you're being challenged a lot around this racing circuit that has been home to many, many champions, many, many race winners. But tonight, there has just been one driver a cut above the rest. He came back from his Hockenheim demeanors, and on the other side of Germany, round the final corner, Crozat, king of the Nurburgring, here at the Nordschleife combined. It is the Frenchman on top to extend his championship chances. Patrick Schmidt comes home to get crowned the winner of the Pro-Ams. The green category. He'll come home in fourth, and Davide Vitoriti is still feeling a little bit of pressure from behind, but Gruber will have to do a lot if he wants to attack this. But you see there Dominic Engel getting all sorts of out of shape here, heading on towards this final section of the race circuit.
I mean, he doesn't have to do an awful lot. Yeah, like you say, round the final few corners now for them, and down that Dottinger straight, they're going to gain that slipstream effect. So I think Engel could play a bit of a part in this, depending on who he might want to get the slipstream to. But through the little carousel now they go. They're pretty close to one another. This could be something as they come up towards the Tiergarten and the final few corners. It's going to be a matter of who gets the good exit here then. Onto the straight now, and it's just a drag strip at this point. Let's see how close Gruber can get to the back of Vitoriti.
There we go, down the Dottinger in what could be a big moment in this championship for the amateurs. And it will be Davide Vitoriti looking to try and round off whatever he can. They're in exactly the same machinery, two Porsche GT3 cars for Vitoriti and Gruber, so should experience no problems. Through they go in towards Tiergarten, through the left and in towards the right. The drivers continue to go across the line. We'll bring you the results in full in just a moment's time, but the final corner has been ticked off and dusted down and completed. It is Davide Vitoriti in the amateurs to win ahead of Daniel Gruber with Breno Franco to take the third place in the amateurs. He is just a couple of seconds in behind there. Silvestri Filoi 23rd. Then it will be Breno Franco coming home to take third in the amateurs. But this was the replay with Marcus Blum through the left-hander. Is he going to grab a little bit of curb, or is he going to lose the car? Oh, it's just too wide. It's too wide in toward the barrier, and it just carried around and stops right there. Oh, massive, massive disappointment there for Marcus Blum.
It's easily done, to be fair to him. I wouldn't fault him there necessarily, but yeah, it's a real shame to do it on the final lap. So he'll be gutted that that's how the race ended for him. But can't take anything away from the Frenchman of Crozat. Another win to his name then in this fantastic season that he is having here. Of course, Hockenheim, the only blemish on his scorecard at the moment. And with the drop round, you could say technically he's not lost anything, because at the moment, Hockenheim would be his drop score. And so far, he's won everything else. So Remy Crozat is really on a fantastic run here for the GT3 trophy.
Indeed, and wow, this has just been another incredible race here at the Nurburgring. We'll bring you results as soon as we possibly can, but that was just another superb race once again. If you want to know the calendar before we load in the results, we head off to the Americas for Laguna Seca before we then head back to the UK for the epic Brands Hatch race circuit, one of the best short circuits in the world. I may be a little bit biased, so ignore that maybe. Or maybe don't. A bit. Road Atlanta coming up next. Before then, we head to Asia for the first time this calendar, where we find Suzuka before then head to the twisty streets of Belle Isle to round off the racing here in the ARL GT3 trophy. We've gone through 4 rounds. We're about to go to our 5th round next week at Laguna Seca. 9 rounds in total, and there are still so much up for grabs. Still a lot to play for, despite there may be some runaway leaders in this championship. Or are there? There's still going to be some really big moments in this championship. But I want to ask you very quickly, Ashley, what are your kind of standouts? What are you looking for next up?
Are you referring to the next circuit we're heading to, or
the rest of the year?
Rest of the year. Well, I mean, yeah, fair question. I mean, you know, after Laguna Seca, we're going to be over the halfway mark. You could argue we're almost there now. And at the moment, I mean, the man to beat, of course, is Remy Crozat. He seems to be absolutely unstoppable so far in this championship. The only man that really that I've seen challenge him, sort of pace-wise, I would argue, was of course his teammate at Portimao, but the other man would have been Leon Mishka. But the 2 events that we've seen where pace is sort of matched, Mishka has come a cropper, and it's just been one of those things that, you know, Mishka's championship going not how he expected, but Crozat rising to the top. So really impressive stuff from him. And another one would be Alex Rogers.
Remy Crozat, welcome in to the commentary box. What a win. Let's go back to qualifying. What was kind of the deciding factor for you? Was it kind of your confidence around the circuit, or what was the main reason?
Hey guys, so yeah, quali was pretty good. I'm pretty happy about it. I just off-tracked my 2nd lap, so the last one was pretty, how can I say that, dangerous. I think I had to be fast, but not having another off-track, so yeah, had a bit of a sweat on this quali. I think my lack of max speed with the Ford made it a bit harder than I thought. Sorry, and I think Leon was just way faster than me during the quali and even during the race. So yeah, I'm happy about the P3 in quali, but couldn't do a lot more, I think.
And then talk about that kind of first stint, because you were right behind Leon. He made the mistake, and then you kind of went off into the Nurburgring sunset. How was that kind of just managing that opening stint?
The first lap was really tough behind him. He had a lot of max speed. Just couldn't catch him. Even in the straight behind him, I wasn't lifting at all. I was flat out and couldn't even get along him. Then he made a mistake at the beginning of the node. Then I knew I was a bit faster than Fabian, not a lot. Couldn't make a mistake. I had only one mistake during the race. It was in the last lap, and I was not very confident at the end. But yeah, just had to manage the race, like drive fast, not taking too much risk, and I knew it was a really hard track to overtake, so I just had to drive as in practice and wait for the end.
Amazing. And then kind of how did you go about with you did have the other Ford Mustang in your I think it was actually, sorry, my area was Fabian Feldman, just double checking, it was Feldman. How much pressure did he put you under? Was it a lot, or were you able to cope with it?
I was honestly, I don't know how I felt. I just was in my race, like not autopilot. Didn't have, I think, too much pressure. Yeah, just had to race and doesn't make mistakes. So Yeah, I was kinda. I felt good. I was telling myself it's like a practice session. Just have to drive. There's no lapped car. There's no lower class car. Just me, the car, and the track, and let's go get the win.
And of course, you did end up being the winner. How special is it around the circuit like the Nordschleife?
I'm pretty happy. It's a really hard track. If you want to win, you have to make 0 mistakes. You have to be fast. Also, it's a really difficult track. You can easily lose tenths, even seconds, if you miss a few apexes or a few braking zones. So feels good. I'm happy about this one. I think it's my best race so far. So hope I will have some other wins, but yeah, it feels good. This win feels good.
Amazing. And finally, is there anyone you would like to shout out?
Shout out to my mate Fabien Houillet. He had very small amount of practice because of the qualifying sessions this weekend. So very small amount of laps. I think he doubled his practice laps today. So he did a very good job considering that he did not drive a lot on this track with this car and the setup. So big shout out to him.
Thank you very much, Remy. Go and celebrate your win. What a performance from you, and we'll see you next week, I'm sure.
Thank you, guys. See you.
Well, that was Remy Crozat. Final thoughts from you, Ashley. What a spectacular race we've had.
Had a mega race. Nurburgring never fails to disappoint. And even being such a large circuit, we still had racing for positions right up until the final corner, which is always fantastic to see around any circuit, but especially here as well, as you can get a quick view of the standings. Then they finally have all crossed the line then, and so we can see there your winner Crozat at the top. I hope you don't mind me taking it here, Adam, but I'm in the flow. We've got Feldman, Baraktarovic, Schmidt, Miller, Rogers, Nguia, Heidberger, Cialfi and Kunaf, your top 10. Before we get to Goretzky, Verne, Grossman, Schmidt, Anschel, Iglesias, Serikera, Engel is 18th. 21st is going to be Rizzo. We've skipped a few, but never mind. Silvestri, Feloy, Franco, thank you there. Vitoriti, Gruber, 1920. Back to 24th with Breno, Franco, Dustin Reichner, Marcus Fox, Vontabell, Celentano, Pugnoli, Tuesto, Lieta, Blom, Kraft, Salah and Winkler. Those final few there, a lap down at the end, and then we do get to a few more of the non-finishers. Havdal, Moniz, Andreasen, Angel, Olakuju, Mishka, Clark, Fowler, Dimitrov, Dabalevsky, Deborek and Larson rounding out the full grid. Yeah, still got a lot of finishes though, Adam, so really good stuff.
Yeah, indeed. Amazing stuff there. But wow, what an incredible race we've had around such an incredible circuit. And of course, I'm sure, Ashley, you've had as much fun as I have covering our Nordschleife debut. But of course, like I said, we head to a very much shorter circuit next time around when the ARL GT3 trophy heads to Laguna Seca for round 5 and expect 2 races at that event. We'll see you in 7 days' time when the ARL GT3 Warriors head to Laguna Seca. We'll see you then. Take care. Good night.